this time of year on the homestead, things can get kind of busy. If you have a garden, then you know that it's time to preserve a lot of things. Today, I have canning green beans on my agenda, and then I have some other foods that I've harvested that I need to dehydrate. And so I'm going to be doing that, but I always find that coming out into the garden first thing in the morning does my heart a lot of good. It's good for my mental health, and it's just good for my physical health too. So I try to get outside. I don't always do it, but today I just wanted to come out, refresh my brain, get a little boost, and it always gives me a boost when I'm around the sunflowers. I have some gorgeous morning glories that are blooming right now. And so those things are very encouraging. I'm just going to pull a few weeds. I'm going to set myself a few small tasks and then accomplish those. And then I have to head in to get those green beans in the canner. Let me just give you a peek into, that's one of my big sunflowers. My little zinnia garden is doing really well, and it even has some happy sunflowers in it. I'm really happy with the color that I'm getting at this time of year. And I still have some tomatoes that I'm harvesting. We never got like a really big boom of tomatoes this year. They've just been sort of trickling in, and I think we need to do some adjustments with our soil. My husband says we need to add calcium, like either lime or some other form of calcium, because they make nice big bushy plants and not as many fruit. So with the tomatoes, I'm largely dehydrating them this year because I just haven't had a glut of tomatoes to can. I wanted to show you this pretty sunflower behind me. I just love that orange one. It's such a different color. Also, one thing that I planted this year that I'm really happy about because it's given me such beautiful results are these morning glories that are striped. I think they might be called tie-dyed, and I don't remember where I got these. I feel like I got these like from a free packet or something. So I have some blue ones and I have some red one or magenta colored ones. But the blue are like an indigo blue, sort of like almost a purple. They're not blue like the little small ones that we have, but they're pretty unusual, and I'm really glad that we grew them. I am now, when everybody's finished, I planted a second crop of zucchini and yellow squash because my first crop didn't do that well. And so I have been getting some zucchinis, and so I'm really happy with zucchinis. Here's some of the blue morning glories. They're so happy. And my biggest sunflower is so tall. I'd say it's 10, 12 feet tall. It's just nice to have these little reminders of God's love for us. He didn't have to make all the flowers so beautiful and so different, but he did. And that is just a good reminder for me that he cares about us. If he cares for these little flowers, as the Bible says, he certainly cares for us. One thing about weeding is once you start, it's hard to stop, not because you love weeding, but because there's always more to do. So I've done 2 small sections, and that feels good. I just don't have all the time in the world. So I'm going to leave it for today and come back another time. It'll be there waiting, I can guarantee it. I often save my kitchen chores for after I come in from the garden because the garden gets too sunny and the dishes will always wait. So once I've cleared my workspace, it's time to go ahead and get the dehydrator trays out. We have an Excalibur dehydrator, and it has 9 trays with the silicone sheets, and it works quite well for all of our needs so far. We're getting quite a few of these midnight snack tomatoes, and during the week we aren't eating them as quickly because everybody's working. So I'm going to go ahead and add these to my dehydrator trays too. I'm just going to slice. They dry up pretty well. You just have to pay attention that they dry thoroughly, and they have really good flavor. We were blessed to find a few figs on our fig tree this year, so let's do something with those. Well, the fun thing about gardening is that everything seems to come in at once. So I've been debating what to do with the figs. We've been picking some figs. There's not a lot, but I do want to do something with them. I debated between drying them or freezing them or cooking them. And we could just eat them raw, and that would be great. But for some reason, people aren't grabbing them so much. So I would like to do something with them. And so as I've been thinking about drying them, I thought, well, we have some dried figs that they're very enjoyable, but I feel like if we dry them whole because of how big they are, they just take so long. or I could slice them into little slices, which would be nice. But what I settled on was I think I'm going to pair them with, I have some berries that I have picked actually a little while back. There's some of our blueberries, the pink lemonade. They kind of have a tangy tart flavor that I actually thought might be a good pairing with the sweet figs. And so I think what I'm going to do is look for my mom's date bar recipe, and we're going to make fig bars, date bars. They freeze really well or they disappear pretty fast. I've noticed when I've made them before, and I haven't made them for quite a while. Okay, my mom's date bar recipe. It takes 3 cups of cut up dates. So I don't know that I will have 3 cups of figs, but I think I will pair them with the berries and then add a little bit of dates for sweetener, and I think it will turn out really well. So let's go ahead and do that. This is a bar that kind of uses a base of oats, flour. Yeah, that's a pretty simple recipe. So I think we'll do that and see how it works. I have about 2 cups of berries, which will cook down. Don't let these berries fool you. Some of them are regular blueberries, and a lot of them are slippery. The pink lemonade blueberries, I've had these in a sealed container in my refrigerator for quite a while actually, but they've held up really well. I did notice that the blackberries do not hold up well like that, but the blueberries do. So we're gonna cook these with the figs. Once I chop up the figs, I'll probably have a couple of cups also. All I'm removing is the stems because they're kind of chewy. And so we're gonna cook these. Now figs they're so pretty. They're so pretty inside. If you haven't had fresh figs, they are a rare treat. They are very different from dried figs, and not everybody likes them. I don't think everybody has had them. It kind of seems a shame to chop these all up because they're so delicious fresh. When I was telling my mom about making the date bars, she actually reminded me that this is not only her recipe, it's her mom's recipe. So that's pretty cool. While this is cooking behind me, I am going to deal with, we have a little bit of leftover cantaloupe, and I showed you last week how we like to freeze it and use it for like a cantaloupe ice cream or smoothie. So just 3 slices left, but that's going to go in the freezer. And then I have bananas to deal with. I did probably slightly overbuy bananas, but I'm always fine with overbuying them because we love to make smoothies. And I've been thinking also about, since I've got the dehydrator running, I may put a few, like 1 tray into the dehydrator. We love them like that. They make like a wonderfully sweet, almost like a fruit leather. So I think I'll do a little bit of them dried, and then I can send them in guys' lunches, and the rest will go into the freezer. Sometimes I save my Ziploc baggies, not always. If they're really kind of gross, I don't, just to save money, because a lot of times they, especially the freezer bags, can be used over again. Now for the cantaloupe, I prefer to have it cubed instead of in big pieces because the blender handles it better. You can put almost any kind of fruit into a smoothie, but we do find in the summertime that the melon adds something nice to the smoothies and to the ice creams. Watermelon is another good one that we like to make. Just bananas and watermelon, it's really, really good. I got this cute little bundt pan. It's a ceramic bundt pan, and it has leaves and acorns on it, and I'm hoping come fall, which is coming right around the corner, to be able to make some sweet little bundt cakes in here. It's so small, could serve about 3 people or 4, and I like it because it's small and just because it's cute. It was a recent acquisition. I actually took the chance and made a cake in it the other day, and it turned out really cute. If you have not dehydrated bananas, they are so easy. Dehydrating anything is pretty easy, but our kids used to really, really love these. In fact, when our kids were quite young, we would get bananas. We get bananas by the box full, and we would freeze and dehydrate a lot of them to the point where at the grocery store, they knew my husband as the banana man. And our kids used to love to snack on these. They were just so sweet and delicious. Now, once bananas get to be overripe, which they kind of are right now, so many things you can do with them. Drying them is really easy. Probably freezing them is the easiest. You just have to peel them and pop them in. But drying them is not hard. And so if you have a whole bunch and you don't have freezer space, drying them is a really good way. And of course, you can also stick them into muffins and banana bread, which is another option that I love to do with old bananas. See, these are literally falling apart, which will make a really, really sweet treat. Just something interesting that I discovered is that I cannot do a lot of bananas when they're concentrated like this. I noticed that my tongue would sort of swell up and get a little bit numb, or not only just numb, it would sort of like hurt. And I think that must be a slight latex allergy. Either that or they were not organic bananas and whatever they were spraying them with was affecting me. But I can do smoothies, but to do these really concentrated ones, I have to just kind of take it easy and space them out. Now that our kids are big and 2 of them have moved out of the house, even just doing these simple things brings back such memories for me of all of us sitting there processing bananas and cherries and whatever things we got. Those were such good memories. Sometimes we would do several boxes of bananas in one day. And even though we would sort of groan like, oh boy, we have to do that, it was a blessing to have them, and the kids love them so much. But now our kids are bigger and they do different things. Everybody keeps busy. My husband really loves these. I think everyone actually still loves them, even though they're not little. My compote is cooking. The figs are a lot juicier than the dates, just say that. And so I added a few more dates just to make sure that it gets good and thick, but it still has a ways to go before it kind of cooks down and is really good and thick. I decided I'm going to do 2 trays of bananas today, and that should be good for now. It's amazing how things shrink when they get dried up. So they will hardly take up any space, and I just store them in mason jars with lids. That's what I've always done. Again, like I said on one of my recent stock up hauls, bananas are pretty much the cheapest fruit you can get. Now that the fruit is getting boiled down, it's time to make the crust for our fig bars / date bars. So we take the plant-based butter and we smash it up so it's good and soft. We combine it with the sugar and vanilla. I've added a touch of molasses because my sugar was not brown sugar. It's best with brown sugar. So mix that all up, smash it all together. I'm sure there's a proper term, but this is basically what we're doing. We're creaming it. Then we're going to add our oats and our other ingredients to this. You can find the full recipe on my blog, ridgehavenhomestead.com. It has all the details and all the ingredients. I will put a link in the description to that blog post with the recipe. We use about half the mixture to form the crust on the bottom, and we reserve half for the top. I just have to tell you that this fruit mixture does smell amazing, and I'm pretty glad that I decided to combine these types of fruits together. Okay, now that that's in the oven, we're on to the green beans. Time to snap them. I did collect some green beans over 2 or 3 different pickings, and I stored them in Walmart bags in the fridge. So now they're ready to snap all together. Oh, can you see Chucky? He loves green beans. Are you helping me, Chuck? You are a helper, aren't you, buddy? These almost feel like they froze. My refrigerator was so cold. What you doing? You want a green bean? He wants a green bean. He wants a handout. Chucky, you are a beggar. So Chucky used to, as of last summer, I haven't seen him do it this summer. He used to come into the garden and steal the green beans. And I know he's hoping I'll give him one. And because he wants one, then we have Squirt, who's also begging. And then we have 2 cats begging for green beans. This is either from last summer or the summer before. What a little thief. You little thief. You're the guilty party. No, you cannot have more. You're out of luck, Chuck. I've said many times that canning seems to be a lot of prep work and putting away work. So once I rinsed the green beans that had been snapped and got all the pressure cookers ready and the jars out, then the rest was actually a breeze. Getting them into the jars and processing them really isn't too bad of a job. It's just all the other stuff involved. I have learned that using the Ruth Zimmerman method of adding zinc to each of my jars really does help to maintain their green color. So I've added 1 50 milligram tablet of zinc to each jar along with my salt. You can hear the gentle hiss of the pressure canner. We've got a load in, and I actually have enough left for probably another quart, but I'm not going to run a quart by itself in the pressure canner. That's just kind of silly. So I'll be eating these for lunch. I'll cook them up. I like to saute them with a little bit of olive oil and some salt, and it's really, really good. These are at 10 pounds of pressure, and they will go for 25 minutes, and that is all it takes. It's really pretty easy to can green beans once you kind of have your things assembled. I find that most canning endeavors are more the getting the stuff out, getting set up, than it is actually difficult to do. This turned out very well. This is the fig berry bar that we made, and it has a nice thick layer of goodness inside. It's so delicious. The experiment worked. I found that the figs and the dates and the berries made a really, really good combination. No sweetener, no extra sweetener besides the dates was needed. Of course, I did put a little sugar in the crust, but I did cut that back a little bit, and you can't tell. It's very sweet. The figs and the dates are naturally sweet, and the berries have a little bit of tartness to them, so they blended very nicely. In fact, I don't think I've had either fig bars or date bars that I like quite as well as this with the 3 combined. So the berries kind of broke down. I wouldn't have even really known that the berries were in there if I hadn't put them in myself. And then I don't really taste the dates individually. I taste more of the figs, but it has more of a different flavor than just fig bars. And there's like a whole inch of filling. So it's a bar that you can eat with a fork more than you can pick up and eat on the go, but we really like it like that. I let the bananas dry overnight, and they were nice and leathery by the morning, and so I'm taking them off. Going to put them into jars. My tomatoes, some of them were from a previous batch, and they got a little bit darker than usual, but that's okay. And then the little cherry tomatoes basically turned into little tiny raisins that I'm just going to store in jars. I am going to vacuum seal these jars for an extra layer of protection, and then they'll be on the shelf. I've showed you before in a previous video about this mason jar vacuum sealer. I like it pretty well. I pull it out when I have a need, and it's super convenient, and it's also rechargeable, so there's that. I'll post the link to that video also in the description. Well, as is often the case when you're harvesting and putting up what you start one day, you sometimes have to finish the next, and that happened in this case. Thank you for coming with me on this journey, and until next time, stay safe, be well, and may God bless you. Happy harvest if you have a garden.